magician, group facilitator, former marketer, coach, it doesn't fit on a business card. When I was younger, being my authentic self did not feel safe. Magic became armor. Do you know anything about most professional magicians? Opening the aperture of fear very slowly so the nervous system can hold the fear. Am I scared to be who I think I am authentically? And what would that mean if I was?
Welcome to Is This Working? A podcast about meaningful work and the messy humans who do it. I'm Connor Demon-Yeoman. David Gerard is one of the top magicians and mentalists in the world. He directed one of the highest rated shows in Las Vegas. He performs over 100 nights a year for companies like Google. He's led marketing and multiple startups. And now, David's in the middle of a real shift in his work. He also does a live mentalism performance at the end of the episode that I genuinely cannot explain. David Gerard, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Connor. What a treat.
So many kids love magic or have a hacky sack phase, but very few go on to become the number one hacky sack player in the world or one of the world's top magicians and mentalists. And this isn't even mentioning all of the other incredible peaks in your career. What drives you?
So I think it has changed over time. I think intent is something I'm super interested in. And so I'll give you just two buckets where the intent in the early days was pretty selfish and pretty focused on like standing out and really not being in the crowd and really using things like magic and hacky sack and marketing and accolades to really, gain love and affection and admiration. So it was a pretty like inside job, right? Maybe in a good way, maybe in a bad way. And now it's really changed where the drive is really, I think, becoming more selfless and really about sharing these beautiful things that I found, whether it be a magic trick, right, or a piece of spiritual advice or a meditative technique, or even just inviting someone into a men's group I run. I'm really trying to now, pay it back to the world that gave me so much. So that's what drives me now.
And what prompted that shift from the external validation to the internal?
Yeah, I think I kind of hit this wall probably about 10 years ago where running off that internal fuel of, just wanting to be liked by everyone and searching for external validation, I felt like it had gotten me kind of as far as I could get. And I was so burned out and so drained that I kind of wanted to change from like gasoline to solar. Like I thought, is there a cleaner energy source that can run here? And as my mentors and teachers started to either become sick or pass on, I was like, I think I'm in a lineage. I don't think I'm a lone wolf. And so that intent started to shift. And then seeing how the world responded to solar instead of gasoline just made me want to triple down on that exploration.
I have this memory in college when I was considering going into acting. And I had a conversation with one of my professors. And he told me, if you can imagine yourself doing anything other than acting, don't act. And that was a reflection of just how cutthroat and difficult that career is, despite how glamorous and fun it looks. And I imagine that magic is very similar. It's just so hard to succeed in that space. So I wonder, how and when did you know it was the time to take the plunge and leave a very successful career in marketing to do magic full time?
Yeah, there's a lot here. So for me, when I graduated college, I loved magic, but I didn't really see a lot of templates to live off of it. I didn't think that was really like a way. I only really, had the Copperfields in my head, and I was like, well, I'm not David Copperfield. And so I was going to triple down on marketing, which is what I did. And I tried my hardest and got a job at Google out of school, which was a blessing. And then marketing really was like the thing that I felt like I could build my life on. And I was doing these shows at night purely for fun. So the energetic was fun and excitement and sharing and just loving magic, right? It wasn't constrained by a need to pay the rent because the day job did that. So a lot of people think you should burn the boats and you should bet on yourself and so on and so forth. which makes sense. But my approach was, let's use the marketing during the day. Let's do gigs we love at night. And then let's see if eventually we can tip into it with less of a cliff and more of a gradual, hey, now I'll do magic. So after 12 years of performing magic and getting that revenue up, it felt safe enough to leave. But I think what I would like viewers to take away is like, oh, it wasn't just flipping a switch. It was like this real decade-long process to leave a great job in tech that I did like, and shift over.
Was it always about the economics? In other words, was the question only, can I actually make a living out of this? Or was there also a question around, do I actually want to do magic full time?
Yeah, I mean, really because of my upbringing, right? I was pretty focused on the dollar figure. Like, I'm not going to lie to you about that. It was like safety equaled the ability to pay the rent, right? And support a future family. And so for me, even though I loved magic and was curious about what it would be like to do it full time and chase that love and passion, like security came first on Maslow's hierarchy, right? I needed to eat and have a roof. And it took 12 years to feel that way. Now, I could have left at year 6 or 7 or 8, but that kind of matrix of what I was going after, it was constantly shifting. And then it hit a point where I was like, hey, I want to be able to tell my future kids, like, dad took a bet on himself and he went and did this. And at that point, the leads were coming in really quickly and I was saying no to tons and tons of work around the country and world. So I almost forced it to happen, which is actually like my pattern. Like I force things to break before I do let's burn the boats and bet on myself.
How'd you force it to break?
It got to the point where I was literally taking off like a day and a half of work from my startup VP of marketing job to go do a show in Kansas at night. I remember being at a Dunkin' Donuts at 3 a.m. in the middle of Kansas trying to get a 7 a.m. flight to get back to my startup job. And so, yeah, I just broke the container. And then I remember saying to my boss, hey, now this is unsustainable and I'm going to go try magic.
But that wasn't an explicit choice to break it. You kind of found yourself making decisions and doing things that broke the system. And then you realized there was wisdom and retrospect in that? Or were you intentionally like, I actually want to introduce some friction into the system?
I wanted a little bit of friction, but then it was like I kind of woke up at the Dunkin' Donuts at 3 a.m. and it was like, I can't do this anymore, and really saw a lot of things get hurt, right? Relationships, right? And different things because I was trying to live 4 lives at once. And so, yeah, I had to shift into depth versus being, a mile wide, a few inches deep.
You soon became one of the leading magicians in the world. I'm wondering how someone who literally creates awe and wonder for a living navigate the world.
Yeah, so I think what happens when you're on stage, 100 nights a year, thinking about an audience and thinking about what they're perceiving, right? And watching people react and putting people in a state that magic does, which is like they turn into their 6 or 7-year-old self. And I'm thinking about how can I create the show of my life to get them to feel these things that I want them to feel or bring them through this journey, What are they going through? So I think that's real. And then I also want to go back a second to, how did I become this kind of quote unquote in-demand entertainer without being famous, without having hundreds of thousands of followers, so on and so forth. And I think it's helpful to talk about because it's such a different model than what we think for entertainers and artists and people in the creative space, right? We think now he's got 1 million followers or whatever. But for me, I was like, I only need to be booked 100 nights a year. Who's making that decision? It is like world-class event planners, right? Event producers, right? It's the top venues in the world. And I took a different approach, which was, let me have 1,000 beautiful relationships versus hundreds of thousands of followers. I put that out there because I was taught by my mentors, mostly a guy named Eric Mead, who no one knows, but is hugely successful. Oh, it can be built on relationships, not on reach. I think a lot of us were brought up with only famous archetypes and only famous templates, and they seemed very, very unreachable. And for me, he's not famous and he can live off what he loves to do and he seems like he's having a great time. That's so much more approachable. And I think we need a lot more of those archetypes.
I want to push you a little bit on your reflection on fear, because I think that it can be very hard to know or distinguish between good fear, good friction, bad friction,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
I think that we are also, especially with matters of careers, of work, we are exceptionally good at telling stories that justify our behaviors and maybe help us avoid fear when we should be leaning into it. But there are moments where sometimes the fear is actually indicative, where there's real wisdom in the fear, and that's signaling to a broader incoherence or dissonance.
I'm interested in when fear is like a fear of being truly seen as who you are as a human. And that's like my favorite fear topic. Like, am I scared to be who I think I am authentically? And what would that mean if I was? So, right? If I am a leader at a company, or if I'm on stage and I say something, or if I tell a story or whatever, like I talked about in one of my stage shows here in San Francisco, I talked about like my experience with OCD, right? My experience with how like ever since I was 7, like my ideas of safety, right? And locks and security are really tough, right? It's really been difficult. And that was really scary to bring up because I was like, what if people think like I'm dumb or think like he should get over this? How is he not over this with therapy and all these things, right? And that was just a fear of being authentically seen as myself. And that's the fear I like to play with. So it was like, what is the smallest increment of bravery here? Well, the first increment was just with a therapist one-on-one. And then it was with a few friends. And then it was at a work in progress show for 20 people. And then it was 50. And then it was 100. And now with your listenership, it's way more. And so that's really fascinating, right? This fear thing where it's like, how do we slowly but surely create a safe environment where it's like, I just told you something, I exposed myself, we're still safe. We could talk about fear all day. But I think for me, I'm interested in like opening the aperture of fear very slowly so the nervous system can hold the fear. And that relates to my work with executives for stage presence, where they say, I have an hour-long keynote, I'm scared to death. And I say, how often do you do 2-minute keynotes? How often are you just slowly warming up? Because I think so often we throw people in the pool of now do a TED Talk, right? And they've never really swam. And so again, the takeaway there is slow widening of the container to feel safe and know that when you show up authentically, maybe it's not as scary as you'd think.
So I'm hearing two important points. One is the type of fear that you're actually interested in grappling with.
Yeah.
You find the most richness, the most wisdom in fear that relates to self-expression or self-exposure or authenticity. So that's one. And it's kind of like pattern matching. Oh, is this in that bucket of fear? Or is it in another? And if it's in another, I don't really care about that as much. If it's in this first bucket, that's something I'm really interested in.
Yeah.
And then the second is the tactic for how you delve into that fear. And that is one of kind of microdosing on the fear.
Yeah, you've really nailed it. And the thing that came up was, for me, when I was younger, being my authentic self did not feel safe in the middle of Pennsylvania in the early 90s, where someone who was sensitive and could get along with everyone on the gender spectrum, right, and go really deep, like that did not feel safe to me, right? I got called a lot of words that I don't want to say on recording. And so I really hunkered down, right? I wasn't in the school play. I didn't share my poetry. I sang once, was embarrassed, and that door was locked, right? I did not feel safe. And so for me in magic became armor, where I had these tricks, which actually were like the armor, look at me, I'm so amazing. And magic is such a beautiful piece of armor because the tricks are enough for most people. You don't have to know anything about me. Do you know anything about most professional magicians? Not really. And so then, though, slowly but surely, because of all of my privilege and being a white male in America, I can get on stage and talk about OCD, right? And feel comfortable in San Francisco to do it. And then I can take that to Austin, take that to Detroit, take that to wherever. But I just want to honor that it's been a slow burn.
Yeah, it's so interesting the ways that you use magic as a conduit. Like it's not about the magic. It's a shield that allows you to eventually share more intimate, potentially unsafe parts of yourself. But then it's also a conduit on another level to allow you to share a sense of freedom, of coherence, of joy, of effortlessness and alignment with your authentic self and work with other people that they can connect with.
Yeah, you're really helping me get to deeper pastures here because if you see the point that we said above, which is I'm trying to be a resonant performer on stage so people feel this. Any internal constrictions that I have where I'm not comfortable with myself or I'm hiding will dampen the vibration, literally like walls with music. And so how can I blow out the walls through all of my other stuff so that then I'm on stage and people say, I might not like him, I might not like this, but man, like, it's that person at the wedding on the dance floor just going ham, and you're just like, we're envious, right? Of unfiltered, unabashed, free-flowing expression, because we know that's brave, rare, special, etc. So that's really important to land. And the other thing that's important to land is, yes, I think magic is a vehicle for deeper self-expression, but I want to honor that magic is enough. What I mean by this is mystery alone is amazing. And a good piece of magic doesn't need the lasers and the tight leather pants, as my mentor, Nate Staniforth, would say. It can just be mystery.
To be fair, you are wearing really tight leather pants right now. Yeah. The viewers can't see that.
Misdirection.
It is a magic trick if I've ever seen one. No, he's not. All right, one of the things that we haven't talked about is your experience at Google. You were there in the earlier days at a really pivotal time in the company. How does your experience there relate to the work that you're doing today?
Yeah. So the thing that I love to share about that is at that time there was TGIF and it was on Fridays and it was like this kind of closing weekly celebration, update loop, etc. And what I was able to do there was watch all of these executives and team leaders every single week talk to the company. And it became almost like this American Idol of leadership, right? Where I was just feeling every week, wait, why am I resonating with that person, but not this person? Like, he doesn't seem confident, but she does. And there would be questions from the audience, and some people would freeze and some people wouldn't. I just am so blessed to have had this kind of by osmosis kind of download of what felt good and what didn't. And for me, my number one takeaway became maybe two things. One, there were people who were passionate about the work they were doing, and there were people who were not. And I think it's pretty hard to fake that. And so I just remember leaders getting up there and you were like, oh, they live and die for Google Play, and they live and die for their team. And this is flowing out of their veins. And maybe they don't even have the answer, but the feeling of belief and resonance is really here. And I tried to understand and go back to my desk and say, how could I feel that way? And that made me want to move to Google Maps, a product that I really loved, And then there was also this sense of safety, which was like the people who they either had their facts or admitted they didn't, right? The kind of person who would be like, we're going to get back to you guys. We'll post in the all hands channel or whatever. We'll get back to you. And that safety was like, oh, okay, we're solid here. We're not scared, right? These very basic human emotions. And so I think that was huge for me. And then I would go do magic shows at night and be like, how can I embody Nikesh? Right? How can I embody Kate? How can I embody Larry and Sergey? What is going to be my recipe for leadership?
Everyone wants that. Everyone wants to feel that sense of alignment, that sense of coherence and resonance with their work. What would you say to the folks listening who don't feel that in their work right now? Is it more of an exercise in finding the right project, the right job? Is the first step more of an inward journey? Tactically, how do you uncover that?
Yeah. So the first tactic is to talk to someone about it who can play back your energetics and feelings and what's coming up for you. You can't see yourself. You can't see yourself in your journal, right? But if you have a coach or a therapist or a friend who's playing back, hey, Connor, every time you talk about X, you tense up and it doesn't seem good. What's happening for you right now? You don't need a therapy master's to ask someone how they feel when they talk about a project or what have you. So like that is piece one. And I had so many people that I would do coffee walks at Google that weren't directly career related, but were just about me and what my energy was. So that's point one. The second tactic is to go back through your week at the end of the week and color code it red, yellow, green. And this is a very common coaching practice, right? And then you look at this and you try to identify patterns. And now with AI, you can have someone work one-on-one with you instantly who's one of the best coaches in the world. So now it's like, wow, all of my greens are with this team at this moment in the morning. Oh, interesting, right? All my yellows are X and all my reds are Y.
And red, yellow, green is aligned to resonance, coherence.
Yeah, resonance,
joy.
coherence, joy. Is it giving you energy or is it taking away? What's depleting you? What unlocks you? How do you feel afterwards? Side note, the meditation in the morning and the evening, even for 10 minutes, allows me to drop into what was today? How did this feel? Am I aligned? Am I really on track? Not this week, but in general, right? I'm saying you don't have to fix it this week. But so for me, this is really important. Those red, yellow, greens, and this is what I do when I coach people. It's so basic, right? We say, can we make the reds yellow? Can we make the yellows green? And if we can't, then you start to get into, is there a role shift here? Is there a change? Is there a who, not how, right? Instead of how, who can take this? Who is this a green for? My first job, 23, one of my amazing colleagues, Matt, he loves spreadsheets. He loved VLOOKUPs. I didn't. Cool. Let's not make the red a yellow. Let's give it to Matt. He's on fire. He hates talking to clients. I will. That's my green. Oh, between 2 and 5 in the afternoon, it's green, but in the morning, I'm drowsy. So we start to become an athlete, right? We start to optimize our cadence and our style. This is what I do with people one-on-one, right? And it's actually so simple.
What would you say to the people listening who are in jobs they don't like and are resigned to the fact that, look, purpose and meaning and joy and this coherence, like that's reserved for Oprah and David Gerard. And some people just need to put food on the table, they just need to make a living and clock in, clock out.
So the first is that I know it's people saying that, but underneath that is it is a thought, it's a belief. And I'm just curious first of like, before we try to even solve it, like, yeah, who taught you that? Like, because I got taught that like I shouldn't talk about my feelings when I was 12 and I locked up on that for 8 years, right? Or whatever. And so it's just curious, like, oh, why is that not available to you? Who said that it wasn't available to you? And then we can start to thaw that belief and say, well, what if the last 30 minutes were something you loved? And again, it's not for me about burning the boats. That seems so extreme and so scary for most people. It is simply about how can this thing that is a red become a yellow? If we put music on right now, this becomes a bright green. You know what I mean? We're in these simple things, and like meetings at Google were really scary for me. But when I would go into the room and rehearse once, they were way less scary. So now, if the meeting's at 2, I book my 1:30 slot, right? And I'm in there at 1:30 and I'm prepping and I feel really confident, then the meeting goes better. And then I realized doing 8 meetings really well is better than 14 where I'm frenetic and scared and not my best self.
Mm-hmm.
So these are just little tweaks, and like really, you can chat GPT a lot of this now, and just like, you know, say your whole week and what sucked, and be like, reframe this, you know? What's my blind spot here? What would other people do?
You talk about matters related to presence and coherence, alignment, purpose with so much clarity and eloquence. How did this work start? This inner work for you, and where does that come from?
So the 2 P's that come up for me are like, there's like passion and practice. And what I mean by this is that these ideas are what I am the most passionate about right now. These ideas have changed my life and my business and the lives of my friends and the people in my men's groups and the people that I get to work with. And I wish I had more access to them years and years ago. So now I'm like the person who, I remember this quote, it was like a great writer finds like where the bread is and like brings you back the breadcrumbs and is like, it's over here. And that's how I feel. Like there's these pieces that are like mostly free. Like these ideas are free, right? And so I get really passionate about them. Okay, so that's piece 1. And then piece 2 is practice. I get to talk about these a lot by choice. This morning, for 90 minutes, I'm thinking about what you might ask me, you know, and I'm moving through it. You know, I have an Instagram channel where I make videos about these ideas. Like I have to practice them. I have to think about the frameworks, and then I have to get smooth. And on evening walks, maybe I just talk to myself about this, voice memos, so that people feel that there's a line of presence, right? Because the concepts are so locked in. You know what I mean? That takes time. Same with a magic trick. Like whether it was hacky sack moves or magic tricks, I need to bring these things to the subconscious mind and embody them to free up resources so that I can be here right now to know that you just changed body posture and now you're intrigued. Magic taught me the sooner the move gets in your blood, the more oxygen we're going to have to do things. And most people just never find that availability of oxygen because they're scared, they're nervous, they're running to the next meeting, they're heightened.
It's counterintuitive, this idea that you need real practice to lead to presence, to a sense of effortlessness.
Yeah, I mean, look at any great musician, right? Like the things are coming out of them so they can be with the audience and pick their head up, you know? Like I saw performers like Celine Dion in the early days and I was like, oh, the song is there already so she can look at my mom, right? And process the tears and look in the balcony. Like I saw so many performers when I was young never look in the balcony. Because they're worried about the move, worried about the outfit, worried about the sound, the tech, the this, the that. And it's like, it is simply like Alt Control Delete on a Windows machine where you're running all of these processes and like the audience feels your processes. They might not be able to name it, but we know when someone's distracted. You don't have an Apple Watch on. You know what I mean? We know when someone's not here with us. And so I think for me, it's like, back to the point, it's like find your superpower, double down on that, move those things into the subconscious to build your capacity and presence, and then triple down. And people will say, I don't know what this is, but this feels different. Feels like you're here with me.
This feels like presence. This feels like flow.
Yeah. Feels like love, honestly. That's where it all ends for me. It all ends with like the deepest, your minute is as valuable as my minute. And we know we're both investing the same minutes right now. Same with the listener, right? We don't know how many more minutes we get. And so like that's our currency, right? And if I treat that currency with care, love, and unreasonable hospitality, to quote one of my favorite books, people are like, damn it, he just cares more. And that's when you stand out.
Viewers, you better not be listening to this on 2X. I swear to God, don't you? You better value these minutes like we value these minutes.
I honor their choices.
Yeah.
If it's not, actually, it's really funny. No, I'm actually glad you said that because it's like, I don't expect this to be the next Tetris piece for everyone.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way.
And it shouldn't be because there wouldn't be real alignment with some folks if it were for everyone.
Totally. And how many times do you send something to someone and they're like, I'll look this afternoon. And it's like, you don't have to. And actually, like, I would love if you didn't because you don't think it fits into your stack.
I really like this thread about practice being an enabler to presence, and that only through that mastery can we really be with the craft itself. Adyashanti, the spiritual teacher who you and I both love, he talks about going to see a jazz musician in San Francisco and how when watching the jazz musician for several moments throughout the performance, there was just music. It was just music. The jazz musician was so immersed in the thing, they kind of dissolved, and it was just the craft itself. And what you're describing, whether it's just the magic or just that speech or just that presentation or project, when people feel that, it's intoxicating.
Yes.
Like we can't get enough of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's because so much of the world is moving in the opposite direction that then when you stand out against the river, it just stands out more, you know? And I see a lot of leaders at my gigs give speeches before I go on, and it doesn't feel like jazz, you know? It feels like someone handed me these notes before I walked on, and I'm like, I don't know, trying to protect shareholder value or whatever. It doesn't feel rehearsed. It doesn't feel confident. And you're like, okay, like if you didn't give this your time, like why should I give it to mine?
So what does your spiritual practice look like? What does your inner work look like on a day-to-day, week-to-week?
Yeah, so I think for me, the lowest hanging piece of fruit for me was this thing called TM. which was Transcendental Meditation, which is mantra-based, and people can go to tm.org and go find it. And let me explain why that was really important to me. A lot of the other meditation things that had come into my life did not feel like they could fit into that life, right? They felt like, oh, well, I can't go on retreats when I'm a VP of marketing at a startup and working 2 jobs, and I can't sit for an hour, and I can't do this and that. And so I think for me, it's like I recommend TM to people, and I recommend an app called The Way to people because it's really easy to get started and see what all the hype's about. Not just become a little bit less anxious, but maybe touch something even deeper, right? And so for me, yeah, the spiritual practice is sitting every day. It's trying to go on retreats. And really, what I wish someone would have told me is like, you can meditate in every moment and come back to presence whenever you want by just realizing that you've been lost in thought. You feel your feet, you feel your breath, you come back to a state that's just more available. So now it's like, how is that in my show? How is that in my friendships? How is that in each moment? So like, I don't have a big spiritual list for people. It's simply like, it's kind of that, which is actually how exciting and how great that it is just that, that this is not only in Bali, that it's actually here right now. And then I really think it's like one of my mentors is like most of our trauma came up relationally with other people. So most of our healing perhaps needs to be relational as well. And so my spiritual practice is often in communication with someone else so that I can like hold and massage and heal some of those things from the past. That's why like the men's work is so important, being in group settings that I believe are spiritual in nature.
And speaking of the men's group, you are in the midst of a pretty profound career transition yourself, right? Shifting from this world-class mentalist, magician, performer to someone who is more focused on facilitation, serving as a guide. Can you walk us through that transition that you're going through right now, and also what else prompted it? What else pulled you away from your current track?
Yeah. So if we even zoom out into like my overall arc, the overall arc and the one that I think is stealable is like, what are the ideas that light you up that you want to share with others? So 18, right? It was hacky sack tricks. You know what I mean? I thought it was the coolest thing to share. It was a beautiful idea. What's a beautiful idea? Most people have not been given the opportunity to explore what beautiful ideas they like. The world is so fast and it's so easy to get caught in the river of social media and of wasting time. What books would you read if you were on vacation? What are you curious about? And so to me, the thing that I became very curious about was specifically like male loneliness and how men don't have deep friendships and deep presence and a place where they can share things. I was fascinated by how many people were in therapy, but sometimes not experiencing deeper healing. And I was like, that's interesting. I was in therapy, right? We're going on 15, 20 years here. There was something that was missing. So once I got in a men's group and was able to feel that, then I wanted to share the beautiful ideas.
So it started with you experiencing the transformation yourself.
It all does. It all does. I want to share magic because I know how it felt to be blown away. I want to do these tricks, because I saw it. I want to market Google Maps because it changed my life when I was in Europe as a 19-year-old, right? If that's the intrinsic thing you're trying to share, podcasts change your life, right? Great, beautiful idea. How can I share it? How can I be a vehicle for it? It is that simple, I think. And so, yeah, I had huge issues with defensiveness, huge issues with like just how to really, be a great partner, be in relationship. And I wanted to hear from other men specifically how they were showing up in really solid ways that were really in integrity. So I self-serve first. And then what's interesting is it's like the universe sometimes drags you into service. As I told my friends about this men's group where the average age was 60, they were like, can you do one for us? These things become available if your eyes are open, I think.
And what is it about dividing along gender that is so powerful? Why not a group?
Well, I really love groups too. I'm up for any group. across any split because I think there's value to be had when 5 people get in a room. That's how I truly feel. And then the reason why men's group specifically can be helpful is because we're talking about our roles as husbands and fathers and sons. And sometimes there's just a little bit more common ground there. The same way I don't really know what it's like to be a mother, and I couldn't know that. And so that's why I think the men's work has emerged and kind of pulls from these practices and traditions we've lost, right? As, young men went out into the woods and tried to figure it out. And so, but no, I mean, I'm really exploring diversified groups now. It just so happens it started with a circle of guys.
Mm-hmm. I'm just reflecting on that concept of the magical moments and always being in pursuit of your magical moment. I'm curious, do you feel like there are different magical moments for different eras, for different chapters of life? Or is our journey one of finding the true magical moment that awaits for us, at the end of the rainbow?
In my limited experience, it keeps changing and shifting because your environments and the people that you're with keep changing and shifting. I think the magical moments just kind of keep on coming.
I like that. I feel a sense of relief hearing that, because I think that we are raised to believe there's one authentic path for everyone.
Yeah.
That, in kindergarten, I remember being asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, what's your thing? And any questioning or deviation from that thing is inauthentic. And this disregards the fact that we are constantly in flux. Like, nothing is static.
Yeah.
I see so many people, whether it's my students or friends, who are in the middle of a career shift, or they're realizing, I'm not really feeling resonance, a sense of coherence with what I'm doing. And they look at the last 10 years as a failure. Yeah. They think, God, if I wasted all that time, instead of recognizing that maybe that was the magical moment for that version of yourself.
Yes.
And life is not about arriving. It's this constant rediscovery of the moment of the time.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is almost now overplayed, but like Jim Carrey saying, he wishes everyone could achieve their dreams so they would realize that's like not where it's at, and like Will Smith being like, the 27th #1 movie didn't make me happy. It's like, I feel like I felt a version of that where it was like, my dream was to work at Google. I worked at Google young. I was very, very blessed and privileged and lucky. I wasn't really that happy. Oh, maybe it's the startup thing. Oh, maybe it's professional magician. Oh, maybe it's these things. And like, you just start to realize like, okay, I'm in like 7 or 8 territory, but like, doesn't seem like I'm breaking through here. And then to what you're saying is it's relieving. It's like, once you realize you're in Tetris and the blocks are going to fall, you're like, oh, let me dance with the blocks. But for 30 years, I was just like, can these blocks stop, please? And that's why I think we push people to be a doctor for half a century, because it's like, it's a box, you're in the box.
You're safe.
You're safe. But the natural inertia of consciousness and exploration and expression is like, it just seems to want to move. And once I started to realize that, like, yes, the magician, group facilitator, former marketer, coach, it doesn't fit on a business card. Okay. Like, so like, I give up artfully, right? And then I realize that people might just need to meet me for 20 minutes and not in a 10-second reel. That's the Tetris game for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we're fighting, right, when we're in opposition to reality, then who are we and how do we show up? And most of the time we show up in a way that isn't really that abundant or attractive, because you're just that guy at the party who feels really constrained. And I just know a lot of those people. And so they're not able to forecast out the right vibration, and then they don't get what they want, because it's like, we really don't want, Bobby on our team. It's kind of just a bummer. And like in 15 years of corporate America, I just saw a lot of times the guy picked for the team or girl picked for the team is like, it's just going to be a good ride. At Google, we had one of the freaking interview criteria was like, would you like to be stuck in an airport with this person? You've heard that?
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, that's what it's like to be on a project you don't want to do Thursday night at 9. It's like the airport.
Why is it so hard for us to internalize some of these truths, some of this wisdom that we've heard? We hear so much. I mean, there countless middle school posters say that, it's not the work or the money that's going to make you happy, that, there's something deeper. And yet there's this temptation to think that we're somehow different. It's like, oh, if I just have this thing, or if I just change this aspect of my environment, I'm going to finally arrive. And yet we resist it so strongly.
I mean, I think there's so many pieces of this puzzle of why. First of all, we have to admit that reality is not built for this kind of inner peace journey. Like it's
The opposite.
It's really expensive out there. It's really hard. Like people get laid off all the time. Like it's really difficult. And like I worked 2 jobs for 12 years to be able to do magic full time, and gave up most of my social life in my 20s and had a lot of pain physically, still working through it, to be transparent. And like reality is hard, and I don't know how you get away from that trade, right? Like I just don't know. Watch every documentary of someone famous and it's like they traded the universe in some way. It seems to be a yin and yang, not just yin. So like the reason why we can't be the middle school poster is like reality is really hard, and some of the powers that be, like they're not moving that direction. So the river's fast. And then the second thing is what I see, this is way more approachable or way more integratable. People just don't build a lot of time to reflect. So I have just found that with like specifically the executive coaching clients, 90 minutes where they can reflect and dump out the buffet and just take a breath, like it's just not a thing that people do. They don't pause. People are scared to meditate. My thoughts, I'm so buzzy. I'm da, 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 So how do we make that a little more friendlier, a little more approachable? Because I think when we reflect, then we lock into what we want. We can change our red, yellows, and greens to get to a better week, 1 week at a time. And then the Tetris blocks, they seem to fall more slowly.
And doing so incrementally, doing so in such a way that you're not going to activate your nervous system, that you can actually accept the change that you want to see.
Yeah. I always think it's like, what is the hypothesis I'm testing this week? You and I with our stand-up thing, right? It was like future tripping David would be like, am I now a professional stand-up? And grounded David was like, let me go do an open mic night in Oakland with 5 minutes of material and see how it feels in my body. It's just easier than, buying the Netflix domain or whatever.
Yeah. And David and I both had small stints in stand-up where I'd flirted with the idea of stand-up for a long time and wondered, gosh, is this something that I would enjoy? I felt a lot of fear around it.
Yeah.
And you were really helpful, not only in coaching me in my set, but also just thinking about the approach of like, hey, experiment, test it. And so I, went out there, made a set and delivered it, realized I don't really want to do stand-up, but it was enlightening. I mean, I learned so much about myself through that. And again, it's about the right dose of experimentation, of testing in such a way that you can actually absorb the lessons that you need from the experience.
Yeah, and then get addicted to what happens through the experience. Like when I did my first magic trick, I got addicted because I was like, oh, this reaction's amazing. This feels so good. And that was the drive. And I meet a lot of magicians and a lot of artists who they never share their art. So then they never get the other side of the yin yang, right? And then they're just like, I just feel like I'm working, or I know all these secrets, but I don't share them.
I imagine that getting to a place of such deep self-knowing and understanding required you to wade through a lot of darkness, a lot of challenge. And I'm wondering if you can speak to that.
Yeah, so when you say like darkness and challenge, I think about there's this thing called Sky Cave. It's up in Oregon, and you can do a couple days alone in the dark in like solitary confinement, basically. And the privilege of only performing 100 nights a year means there are some nights available to sit in the dark and
literally sit in the dark.
And that's what I mean about kind of the darkness, right? You kind of, once you realize that on the other side of that darkness are things that can benefit yourself and others, you become a little bit more into that wave. But yeah, I mean, the darkness for me was kind of the OCD that I expressed, right? The deep depression, the deep burnout, failed relationships, like, yeah, sickness and pain and all of it. And what's interesting is like the meditation retreats became a place where I could just sit in a garden and just bawl, for all of these deaths I had never grieved.
Literal deaths?
Literally. Because Pennsylvania, 1994, it was like the funeral was 2 days, and then let's get back to school. I remember being in third grade. My grandpa had died. I'm outside crying, and it was just this vibe of like, you went to the guidance counselor twice, and like, we're ready to move on here, which is a beautiful spirit, right? To move forward. But I was like a sensitive kid, really grieving, and so 20 years later, I'm on a meditation retreat crying about my grandpa. So where was that, right? Where was that in my vessels? And then how was that hurting the way I showed up for others? Because I was still blocked as like a channel. And so that's what I mean. My darkness cannot compare to people who have real societal, trauma and things. But there was stuff there,
And in your experience, were those experiences or those challenges, were they things to be more overcome and processed, or more conduits, tools for deeper understanding?
I think they're both. But the thing that actually comes up there that I think is important is I started to release them and tell them to other people, which made them a lot lighter. So I think it's Freud's quote, like, secrets make you sick. And like, my secrets were making me sick. My shame was making me sick. And I put myself in environments that felt safe enough to say, hey, Connor, this thing's on my mind. And like, can you just meet me as another human? And so again, we go back to maybe it's AI first. Here's all my secrets, and then it's a friend, and then it's a partner, and then you can put it in your art and your work. I think it's a little tough to maybe say that in corporate America. Great. So maybe on Thursday night, once a month, have a group of people who meet, and you're just like, we're in a container of secrecy here. This thing came up. I've got this shame in my family, whatever.
And like you said before, healing is relational.
I think.
You're someone who I know is obsessed with feedback. And I'm curious, how much of your journey has been fueled by feedback from others versus the deep, dark, literally dark introspection?
The difference that I see in myself with feedback than others is that I just was more into it than other people because I kind of knew it was going to save me a lot of time. And I realized that like, oh, this point of feedback is literally like, want to save 2 hours? Want to save a day? And I was, yeah, bring it on. And so that was really kind of fascinating. Whereas other people I saw get really small notes in magic or in marketing or in corporate America, and they would just freeze. And I was like, whoa, like now you get a reputation that like we can't really tell Jessica what we thought of the project. And now your whole development cycle is basically stopped. And so I would encourage folks to be like, why am I taking this so personally? Can I just create David Gerard Inc., which is different than David Gerard, and all this feedback is for David Gerard Inc.? This isn't my idea. This is from War of Art. And it's like, the sooner that you put yourself as like Connor Enterprises, and this feedback is just for Connor Enterprises, the sooner you're like, cool. And like, you're not even Connor anyway, which is like what the meditation teaches you, where you're like, these thoughts are not me, and everything gets held in a lightness. And then you save all this time and the feedback works and you're like, well, this makes sense.
So you have some barrier, some receptacle other than yourself to absorb the feedback.
Yeah, because if you don't think this way, then every feedback is like a bullet that's an arrow being shot at you, and it's just more pain. I'm not enough, I'm not enough, I'm not enough, I've messed up, I'm not okay. And I had to rewire that. And then when I started to take other people's notes and they worked, then I got rewarded and the habit loop starts. And I'm like, I should take more feedback. I will say this is the best piece of advice I ever got for feedback, which is take feedback from people you want to end up like. Most people let everyone attack them and everyone drop in with their 2 cents. And I was really good about being like, I want to be like Tom and Tony and Annie at Google. They rock. Their feedback goes to the top of the list. I'll hear the other stuff because there might be gems baked in, but my real filter is like, I know who I want to be, that North Star, and I'll take the note. And that's why the men's groups are all people that I want to end up like.
Your career seems to be defined by constant repositioning, where you are regularly shedding these personas and belief systems. I'm wondering, in the midst of all that change, in the midst of all that repositioning, what are the true constants? What are the guiding principles that are consistent throughout?
So this actually came from For 2 years, I worked for a woman named Julie Supan. Julie Supan is one of the most incredible marketers in the Valley, first at all of these companies and from a marketing perspective. And the specialty that she taught me was around positioning and was about like in the market, how are people seeing you and feeling you? What are they thinking about you? What are their beliefs and assumptions? And how are you unique and superior with the value that you go out to the marketplace with? So we were brought into companies like Discord. We worked with Marissa Mayer, former CEO of Yahoo. We worked on a ton of different stuff together underneath this core idea of like, who is your audience and what are you really giving them? That mirrored so nicely with magic because magic is all around assumptions, as we've talked about a little bit around like, what is the audience assuming and how can I use that to create a magical effect? What I mean by this is if I take this, this coin and place it in my hand, you assume it's there. That's how reality works, right? And so from a consumer perspective, we would ask people, this is the core of repositioning. The core is to actually identify what our assumptions are, see if they're true about our customers, clients, employees, team, et cetera, and then do the focus groups and the research and the deep dives to be like, what is reality here? Oh, you're assuming that high interest rates on a mortgage means X. We just built a product because we thought it means Y. Oh my goodness, right? Whereas if we're all assuming the same things, we can create a shared reality. The magician turns that to entertainment, right? But in business, we can turn it into like high value where you're like, man, Airbnb just gets me. With my shedding, I'm just looking at like my assumptions about reality. I don't hold them really that near and dear to my heart, and I'm really up to change. And we just saw clients who were either up to change or weren't. They couldn't move with the times, and that's why there's graveyards of companies that once were great. Their assumptions and theories expired. People changed.
So it is aligning on the true base shared belief. And then from that, you are able to surprise, you are able to delight, you are able to satisfy that belief or challenge it.
Yes.
But implicit in what you're saying is that a lot of us are acting without understanding the underlying beliefs, or even worse, assuming they're something they're not.
Yeah, and then you get into trouble, right? Because I assume that people who look like X do Y, or when people say this, and we're just wrong all the time. And I just realized as a magician, I was wrong all the time. And I only got that by asking. Like you ask, can I really read minds? No. But can I ask great questions? Yes. Can I go deep with people to understand their assumptions? Yes. And that has really helped. And through the meditation, reflection, journaling, I question my own assumptions.
You can imagine situations where the magic trick isn't working. It's like, why is this not landing? This is an amazing feat. Why are they not getting it?
Yes.
Similarly, you can imagine presenting something at all hands. It's like, this is an incredible product. Or you run an ad campaign. This is the exact solution that they need. And people don't realize that the reason you aren't landing it is because you don't understand the belief. You don't understand the initial belief.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I directed a show in Las Vegas. It's called Calling Cloud Mastermind. He's my main collaborator in life. And that is the highest rated show right now in Vegas across like Vegas.com, TripAdvisor, Ticketmaster, which is a huge win for him and a win for me. Now, why is that? Well, it's two parts. One, he's an incredible artist, okay, period, right? He's not that person who's just like manipulating his show to meet every consumer demand, because then you're just vanilla, right? He has a perspective and point of view that we work on together. And then, for 20 years, we've just been talking to people after the show, And it's so scary as a magician to take a risk and then someone's like, see that in your hand, saw it in your pocket, I know how you did that. That hurts, That really can hurt. But Colin got really, really used to it, and I got really used to it. And so now, he's ready for prime time in Vegas, and it's like all the dirt has been cleared off the mirror, man, because he doesn't take it personally. If we're viewing this as one night, then man, you're not going to be able to do the feedback loop and improve and so on and so forth. But like in a decade, you're going to have all of these notes, and your show's going to be so sharp, and you're going to know what some version of truth is. Let's talk about how that's going to feel. How's that going to feel to have that? It's going to be amazing. Okay, can you bet on yourself and this process that in 10 years we feel amazing? Like, this is be your future self now, project out to that. Okay, it's going to require A, B, and C.
So you're borrowing some of the confidence and poise and wisdom of your future self.
Yes, these are not my ideas. I'm just trying to tell young magicians, hey man, like, you get your 10,000 hours, and like, it's pretty dope when you can walk in front of any audience with high confidence, you know? And then how do we fall in love with the journey? I'm like bathing in the confidence other people have in me, the faith I don't have in myself. And with this new chapter, in this more kind of like coaching capacity, I'm borrowing from you. I'm borrowing from the men's groups. I'm borrowing from anyone who thinks I have potential because I don't feel it in myself.
I find myself in moments where I don't believe I am smart enough or good enough, or where I think I'm in over my head, where I have to confront that belief with the fact that people who I think are way smarter, way better than I am, believe in me and want to work with me. And it's like, well, I can't believe in those people. I can't love those people who believe in me and not trust their taste.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah, they know something you might not know.
So it's like, all right, guys, if you're saying it, I will allow myself to believe it. But again, it is this, and it's to your point, it's relational. Like the healing that I so often find that I need, it is through the eyes of the people who I respect, which also goes back to your feedback point. Be very careful about who are the people you are in relation to, because you are most porous to them, and you want to be able to absorb their skill, absorb their presence.
Yeah, like I have a lot of room in my life for people who are honest, but I don't have a lot of room for people who are doubters. And like that's an interesting nuance, right? People who are just going to doubt me and like I don't need that now. Like I'm in the race. I need the fuel because I'm doubting myself enough for all of us, right? But I don't want people who are just going to say I'm awesome, you know. So be honest.
Do you have any books or resources or experiences that you recommend to listeners or the folks you coach?
Yeah, the list is really, really long. But the one that comes up that I think summarizes a lot of this in a nice way, there's this book called The Way of Integrity by someone named Martha Beck. It's all about this kind of like intrinsic, authentic lifestyle. I think it's really a beautiful book that feels really true. Some of the stuff we talked about around red, yellow, greens and stuff. There's a great book called like Who Not How, which is about finding the people that you can, you know, collaborate with. And so that's really up for me. And the books by Rupert Spira were really helpful in my initial kind of spiritual openings, just a different view of what is actually going on. So people can check out him. And then Adyashanti, our main man, talks on the Waking Up app have been huge for me. The Way app is amazing. That's where I'd start.
With Henry Schuckman.
Yeah.
Love Henry. David, if people want to learn more, where can they find you?
So davidgerard.com is a good move. For the magic stuff, it's David Gerard Magic on Instagram. But for this kind of stuff we've talked about today, presence and showmanship and these things, Gerard Speaks is an Instagram channel, GERARD_speaks. And that has a lot of, I mean, almost every day kind of talking about these sorts of things, and people could reach out, and I'm happy to genuinely hop on the phone with anyone who's trying to move through these things, which can be, you know, you might need some help.
Any closing remarks or reflections you want to leave our listeners with?
Honestly, just thanks for your time. It's just fun to drop in. And this is just as much a chance for me to think about these ideas and how they can be palatable and how they can, you know, help people at different moments. And so I appreciate that chance to continually practice as we get to mastery.
Thanks for joining us, David.
Thank you, Connor. Appreciate it.
David, could you do a trick for us?
Okay, great. We are kind of after hours now, and, and we're going to try one or two pieces of magic and see what happens. For the at-home viewers, like, you don't know what's about to happen.
I have no idea.
Okay, great. We've chatted, we've done a podcast, and now we're just riffing. And so we're going to do a little bit of magic, a coincidence perhaps, and perhaps a little bit of mentalism, since you've gotten to know me, but I'd love to know some more about you, perhaps. Okay. So if one of these decks had to speak to you right now, which one is it?
This one.
That's beautiful. Take it if you would. Good. And I want you to open it up and take the cards out of the box and just shuffle them. And while you shuffle them, I'm just going to talk to you for a second. Okay. So this whole podcast is about leadership, right? It's about these memories that lead us to, oh, wow. You're good.
Yeah.
Hustler.
Yeah, thank
I
you.
love it. These memories, right, that create us and our leadership style and stuff. Now, you obviously have a long LinkedIn. I could look online to where you've been, but I want you to think about, while you shuffle, just think about a memory from your past where you were a leadership memory that's important to you. And just tell me, is there any way I could know how old you are in this memory?
Is there any way you could know? No.
The memory you've arrived on, you have an age in mind.
I have an age in mind. Yeah.
Beautiful. Share with everyone what, for the first time, how old were you? And are you happy with this?
Yes.
Shuffle. Yes, great. Awesome. Pop it down here. Good. You wanted to start with the blue deck, could have shuffled the red. Take the red and just put it in your pocket. So there's nothing else we can do here.
Okay.
I love this. For the first time, what's the age in this memory?
8.
I love that. And it's a pretty positive memory, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. But also like I instantly sense there's kind of like there was definitely growth here. Yeah, there's definitely growth here. And you're 8 at this point, right? And you shuffled these into a random order, right? That has never been seen before and will never be seen again.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So this is very exciting. I hope this works. So I'm going to lean over here and do me a favor. I want you to just touch for me the back of one of these cards. Okay, cool. Now, most people will think that's what everyone touches, right? Like it's a timing thing, you know, like it felt good to touch that, right? So I'm going to go even further. So this is fair, and touch a different one. In your mind, that is beyond fair. Yes.
Yeah.
Like there's no way, right? So look, there's not going to be a switch or anything. I want you to just look at the card.
Okay.
Got it. Good. Do you mind if I peek as well?
Yes, please.
Yeah. 5 of hearts. Good. 5 of hearts. So we have a memory in mind, right? When you were 8 years old, you touched a playing card, you shuffled this deck. It could have been any of these. Yes. Now this is really, really interesting because the reason we have 2 decks is because there's 2 of us here this afternoon. So it didn't feel right to only bring one. And all of these different experiences we've had, right, is the order of my life and then the order of your life. And somehow they're all intersecting right here, right now. If you wouldn't mind, reach in your pocket and grab that deck. And I'll ask you just one more question. Face up or face down?
Face up.
Okay, cool. Because it really changes the whole thing. So take the deck out if you wouldn't mind and hold it in your hand. Don't change the order or anything, right? Blah, blah, blah. Good. Exactly. Hold it. We're going to deal face up. Yeah. And one at a time, deal face up here. But you were 8 in this memory.
Yeah.
Now you could have thought of a memory where you were like 16.
Right.
And then this whole thing is completely different.
Right.
Flip over the first card because that would be 1. You were probably a good leader when you were in the womb, but keep going. Good. That would be number 2. Yes. We're just going for a coincidence. Keep going. That should be 3. Good. Awesome. Keep going. Even faster now. Good. That's 4, 5, 6, and 7, and stop right there because this is the 8th card. You touched anything here. All this randomness coming together. Have you led us to a successful conclusion? Turn over that card in my hand. Indeed he has.
Oh, wow. What?
As we land there on the 5 of hearts.
Oh my God.
Now that's a little strange, right? You shuffled, you could have touched anything, so on and so forth, but can we push this a little further? While you're swimming in mystery, pop the cards down for a second. Good?
Oh, wait, I dropped a card.
You're good. You're good.
Wow. The 8th card was, that's nuts.
Just let it simmer. Could have been anything, right? But you're 8 years old, and I want you to do me a favor. Just close your eyes for me, okay? Now, because of time, we might just stop here and they can watch the rest later, but I'll keep going with you because I want you to go back to this memory. And instead of a deck of cards that I handed you, I want you to imagine that I hand you a map. Now, everything that's happening right now is an illusion. I can't really read minds. I just set up the situation where it looks like it, right? Because the cards are cool, right? 5 of hearts, but that doesn't mean a lot to you. But this memory does. This was like a time where you shifted into being an even better leader. I can feel the confidence, your shoulders raising. Focus on a person who's there for me, if you would. Don't say it out loud, but one of the people. Okay, you were quick. And this is very exciting because you don't talk to this person anymore, do you? No. Okay, cool. Because it didn't feel that familiar. But there's other people in the memory who you stayed in contact with. This isn't about them. This is about the one who's kind of moved on. And what I handed you, by the way, was a map. And I want you to zoom in on the map for me, if you would. And this is really, really great. Now, I know a little bit about you, so that probably won't blow you away. But I'll put this down here for now, and we can see that on camera. And keep focused. Do me a favor. Is there a city you can focus on? Can you do that for me? Yeah, that's beautiful. Okay, great. And this is really interesting. Open your eyes for me if you wouldn't mind for me. Good. Think about the city over and over, just to make sure. We'll cut if I miss this, but what's the state that you're in?
Ohio.
Ohio. It's just 1 in 50, right? You just saw 1 in 52, but that's still pretty good, right? That we know where you are, right? And then what's so funny is, and really quick, just hold this face down in your hands if you would. Don't look at it yet. Think about the city that you're in. Good. You kind of added this later in your mind, so it was now, but now it's here. Think of any letter in the city, but don't say it out loud. You kind of went between two of them. Did you end on the T? Oh, that's interesting. There's a T and then there's an R. A little bit later. That was so interesting. I was getting something like Chesterfield. Am I close?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Interesting. What city were you in?
Chesterland.
Oh, Chesterland. Okay, cool. It doesn't always work, but this is the one that we'll end on. Because when you were surrounded by people, I kind of saw, don't react, I saw like a Daniel and a Matt, but then you zoomed in on one person. Interesting name. Who was it? Just the first name.
Howard.
No, for real.
Howard.
Really?
Yeah.
This is where we end, Connor.
Oh my God. How did you know Howard Jackson? I haven't talked with him in 30 years.
Well, tell him I said hi.
Oh my God. Oh my gosh, that's fucking nuts. Holy shit.
There we go. I hope Howard's watching.
Howard,
if you're out there, let us know.
Oh my God. Incredible.
You're such a good reactor. I knew it was.
That is nuts. I can't believe that. How could you have known that? And the 8. I had the deck. And the premise of the trick was that you would find resonance, you'd find the 5 of hearts, and it was on the 8. I could have picked any number. There's no way you could have known that. Oh my God. Hope you all enjoyed that conversation. Thank you to the incredible team that brought this podcast together. We're so grateful to you all for being with us on this journey. Please remember to subscribe, comment, like, share with your mom. It means the world to us. We're a new podcast, and your outpouring of support has meant the world to us. And please, please reach out. Please reach out. You can email us at hello@isthisworking.com. We want your feedback, your suggestions. I got one piece of feedback the other day that I use my hands a little too much in the camera and that my large hands are a little intimidating. They thought that was a little much. So I'm going to try to keep that in check. Let us know what questions you want us to ask, guests that you'd like us on the show. We are completely open. We're constantly experimenting, all in service of creating the best show possible. Thanks so much for being with us on this journey and continually asking, is this working?